Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to episode 110 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail. Today I'm joined by Gannon Hall, Chief Product Officer at Spring, a mobile and online fashion retailer. We're going to be discussing how Spring is using technology, and notably artificial intelligence, to improve its customer shopping experiences. Thanks for joining me today, Gannon.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I think it'd be a good place to start is for you to tell our audience a little bit about Spring.
Sure. And this is relevant to the reason, I joined the company is Spring has put together a pretty unique value in its catalog. So we have a very large catalog of premium fashion brands, a little over 1,500 brands, about 200,000 or so products that are brought together in a marketplace context. And this is, especially in a mobile world, a mobile economy where, the average American only uses a few apps. The marketplace model is a great way for brands and retailers to reach consumers directly on mobile, which, as you know, is growing significantly in terms of commerce. And our, kind of on top of that, we're addressing the needs of users through a fairly unique combination of applying advanced machine learning technology, used both for recommendations and discovery, as well as the ingestion of merchandise through computer vision, and creating a profile around users' tastes and their preferences, and matching that up to brands and merchandise and collections that are curated. And we're coupling that with editorialized, curated content that is not computer-driven, so to speak. So, in the world of personalization and digital, there's, I guess, kind of two schools of thoughts or two religions. One is, a fully computational recommendations approach. We've seen this in digital music. And the other is more of a curatorial approach, which we've also seen in digital music and other media. And we believe that fashion in particular is well suited to both, right? That neither can address the full scope of needs of the end user. So, we want to create an experience because we have such a vast catalog that when you open the app, what you're presented with are things that will interest you, brands, collections, individual pieces of merchandise that's derived from both explicit signals that the user provides through onboarding, what's your gender, pick some images that match your style, as well as inferred signals from how the user behaves once they're in the app. And then the merchandise itself goes through a computer vision process where we identify not only what the item is, but many different attributes around this particular piece of merchandise. So its style quotient, where it fits along the style spectrums, trend spectrums, and then factual data. Is it a dress? Is it a shirt? Is it black? Is it blue? So forth and so on. And that's been a big focus for us on the consumer experience, is applying a lot of the kind of the latest thinking around machine learning, deep learning, in ways that at least I haven't seen applied specifically to commerce. Prior to joining Spring, I was at Google for some time doing local search and Google Maps, and did quite a bit in this area. And this technology is applied to quote unquote bigger problems, industrial problems, and so forth. So I'm really excited about the approach that we're taking, as I think it provides a much more high fidelity and accurate, really, set of recommendations and improving the overall user experience so that shopping isn't just a utilitarian, activity of, hey, I need a winter coat, but we're very interested in the browse, kind of the window shopping experience, which frankly is how a lot of people shop and think about shopping, right? You go into a store, you don't search in the store, you see something, you like it, you buy it. It's an emotional thing, it's based on aesthetics, it's based on things that we don't completely even understand, nor do we need to. And there's a lot of very interesting things we could do by learning about users through these various signals and matching that up with merchandise.
So you've made it clear that as a technology-driven brand, I would say that Spring is, that you're kind of, through the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence, you're trying to match customers with merchandise and improve the customer experience. So then that kind of leads into my question is, what are some of the technology upgrades that you've either rolled out on Spring's platform or in the process of rolling out to improve that customer experience, like I mentioned?
Right. So we, like most modern technology companies, take a iterative approach to product. We recently released our first version of a personalized mobile app experience that initially was based on both building out kind of the fundamental framework for a ontological knowledge graph-based machine learning recommendation system. I know it sounds like a bunch of jargon, and it is, so I apologize for that. But really kind of coming to market with some pretty basic onboarding signals from the user, because the approach is, let's get something to market that's going to make a material difference in the user experience that's fairly quick to do. So in 3 months, we put together a new mobile experience, and right away, there's a kind of a profound difference in the app, right? Our greatest asset is this huge catalog, right? But unless you have some means of tailoring that to the user, it's not unlike walking into a giant warehouse. It's hard to find stuff that you like. And just really some fundamentals around what are the styles you like, which is visual based, pick some styles, what's your gender, what are your sizes, what's your price points, etc. Just with that, you can make a really big difference. And now that it's live and we're able to collect user data, the inferred signals that we're collecting, what do people click on, what do they add to cart, what do they like, how long do they look at something, what do they not look at ever, gives us richer data. And, simply put, the system learns constantly from this. And in fact, it very quickly, the connections that are made in this kind of ontological set of relationships is, we can't comprehend it very quickly because it is so complex. But what we can do is tune it. So there's a few mistakes that companies often make with quote unquote personalization or recommendations. The first is limiting the user's experience simply to that which the machine knows the user will like or has a high probability of liking. And the problem with that is the world becomes very small because you only know what you know, and you limit the ability to discover something. And humans are complex creatures, and we sometimes don't even know what we want. So you really have to balance a system like I described with serendipity, with introducing collections or merchandise that may be trending but isn't within the realm of their known taste profile, but is close to the edge. You're not going to show, for instance, a woman a man's watch. That wouldn't make sense. But she may not wear pantsuits, but she does, buy a lot of kind of professional clothes. So that might make sense. And by doing that, you allow people to discover new brands, discover things they didn't know they liked, and it also gives us signals as to what works and what doesn't. Okay, so if we put a pair of jeans in front of somebody that we think, this brand they would be interested in because they like these other brands, and it doesn't work, they don't engage with it, or they give us an explicit signal that they don't like it, then we learn from that as well. And so it's this constantly evolving system that gets more sophisticated and more accurate, and frankly, the experience becomes much more magical in a sense the longer you use it. So what this does, or we certainly are seeing signals already that this is happening, is it engenders repeat usage, right? In commerce, there is a lot of focus often on top-line growth, online advertising, and app installs and that type of thing, which certainly has its place in amplifying what the product does, but it certainly doesn't lead to organic user retention, right? I mean, how many apps on your phone did you discover through an ad that you use regularly? Probably none. But the apps you do use, you use because they fill a specific need that this app does really well. And in the market today, at least domestically, you've got Amazon, who own the commodity market, and they've done an amazing job on the supply chain side and on high-intent search. In terms of fashion, they're nowhere, and they don't focus really on the user experience, really. One could argue. They would probably argue they do, and in some ways they do. They have good search, but it's high-intent based searching. I need, a new stapler, right? Commodity-based, whereas we're trying to really fill the gap that doesn't exist today of a marketplace that addresses, the fashion buying needs of the contemporary woman primarily. We do serve men as well, but that's certainly our primary audience segment, are women, where they can get basically, we certainly don't have every brand, but a large percentage of the best brands, not just luxury, but what we consider to be high quality apparel, from high-end luxury to small boutiques.
So what are the goals of Spring with any type of new technology implementation, whether it be the machine learning merchandising tool that you've talked about? Is it really to make it easier for the customer to engage on site and find what they're looking for? Is it to drive those repeat purchases? Is it ultimately the conversion? Maybe a combination of all those. Can you talk about some of the core goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key metric that everyone looks at from a kind of financial growth perspective is lifetime value as a ratio over customer acquisition costs, right? Like that's the thing that drives all commerce at the end of the day. Like all metrics point to that, right? You want to spend as little to acquire customers and increase their lifetime value as much as possible. But from a product perspective, that is an end goal. From a product perspective, we have kind of first principles that are very much based on user-centered design principles, right? So we focus on both meeting unmet user needs, and I would describe those as the things that users can describe that they want that don't exist today. Like, boy, a better search ranking or something in my search results. We're focused on that, but somewhat more interestingly, we're focused on latent user needs, which are those things that don't exist in the market today, but we see solving a very specific problem. And what I was describing earlier is, okay, we've got online today and mobile, and we've got a model which is primarily a text search-based model, right? But that's not how we really think, by and large, about shopping for fashion. It is an emotional thing. So there's a lot of opportunity, and one of the things we're working on now, for instance, is a visual search model, whereby which is really well suited to mobile because you don't have to type anything, which is about refinement through a purely visual basis. So let's say, you look at the app and you've got your sweater, you've got, your dress, you've got various categories, and you tap into one of those and you see various kind of representations within that category, and then you drill into, let's say, a black dress, and you see a whole bunch of black dresses, and they're pretty similar but different, and you say, okay, I like the one with the shorter hem, so you click that, and then you see all with shorter hems. Oh, but I like a kind of a strapless back. Click that, and you get the strapless back. So it's a way of refinement, and it's a way of kind of drilling into what the user wants. It's purely visual. Now, technically, this is achieved with computer vision on the ingestion of content, right? So everything that we bring in, we create this, pretty vast set of metadata, and each attribute is on a scale of 1 to 5, right? And there's a lot of them. So by matching that together, there's some very interesting things that we can do. Now, this is something that's not launched yet when I'm describing the visual search, but that is a latent user need, right? Because there's no one out there that's saying, hey, Spring, what I really want you to build is visual search. But we have a hypothesis that things like that and other, features that we're working on solve the needs of a shopper in ways that they haven't thought of before because no one's showed it to them. But once they see it, once they experience it, it's very engaging, which in turn results in organic retention, right? Because those are the apps, like I did Google Maps, right? So Google Maps is a ubiquitous app, and even on iOS, when that whole thing happened, growth was very organic. It was very, we got some great coverage initially in the media, but from then on, it's just word of mouth. Hey, you should use, Apple Maps is broken. You should use Google Maps. It's way better. And that's what happens, and people use it every day. Commerce is not traditionally something that people do every day. Like, people do not buy stuff every day unless they're filthy rich. But what people do is they look at things on apps or online that appeal to them every day. Sometimes that's in the form of media, and sometimes that's in the form of other types of things. But we believe that by creating such an engaging experience that is tailored to who you are, so your spring experience and my spring experience are totally different. Mm-hmm. So in essence, like, we have an app for every user, right? So the idea is that browse and buy experience engenders repeat usage, right? In a way that high intent shopping simply doesn't, right? Because when I go to Amazon, because I'm going camping, for instance, with my kids in a couple weeks. So I just bought a bunch of camping gear, right? That's very high intent. I'm going camping. I need a tent. I search for tent. I see some tents. I see way too many tents, by the way. And I got to read reviews and try to figure out what's the best one, what's the best value. I don't believe that serves the user, right? in the same way that going to a restaurant and having a menu with hundreds of things is not useful to making a decision. For some bizarre reason in e-commerce and in other places, people have the notion that like as much choice as possible is good for the user. I would posit that that is not good for the user, and that, especially through the user studies we've done, users don't want to see thousands of tents. They want to see 5 tents that are the best tents, right?
Yeah.
That match the stuff that are in their price range, that match their needs, right? And I believe that by delivering that type of experience, we have an opportunity to fill a major gap in the market that exists today.
Yeah, they're talking about sort of that paradox of choice philosophy that, so.
I didn't want to go there, but yes, it's a paradox of choice problem. And I discovered this in Google Local for the same reason. It was, okay, you're searching for a restaurant and you've got thousands of results. That's not useful to me, especially if they're ranked by highest rated to lowest rated, because I'm going to search for restaurants at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. I'm going to get in New York City, per se, Danielle, these are $1,000 fine dining experiences. Obviously, that's not what I'm looking for, right? And there's hundreds of them. So that if the goal is to help users make quick decisions about things, whether that's a purchase or where to go, by refining that set of choices to those things that will appeal to them in their current context. And for e-commerce, we talk a lot about modalities, right? And modalities are very interesting because they're not personas. Personas are static, and they're really almost irrelevant, because the way that, as we observe user behavior, modality is the mode you're in when you're shopping, right? And that changes day over day, season over season, trend over trend. It changes because of circumstances in your life. It changes because you're getting older and you decide you no longer want to wear skateboard shorts and you've got a real job and you have to wear real clothes or something like that. So it's a constantly changing thing, and in addition to that, it changes even within the session itself, right? So I may come in to buy a new pair of jeans, right? Now, if I know the system knows a lot about the user, we can say, okay, here's some jeans that you'll probably like. Great, I love those. Add to cart. And then we can do things like, well, do you want to complete this outfit? Through this machine learning ontology that we've built, which is connecting, here's a bunch of stuff that work really well with this outfit.
No, I was going to say it's sort of bringing that almost that in-store store associate, feature to, you're getting that recommendation tool, but it's real time and it's, like you would get in store if you were working with an associate.
The analogy I use, frankly, is so we have a mall, right? We have a mall in your pocket. We have hundreds of thousands of pieces of merchandise, thousands of brands. But what we've introduced is a personal shopping assistant. So instead of walking into the mall and going, whoa, where do I go? Where's the stuff I like? It's like walking into a mall and someone says, come over here to this room, and it's a room outfitted with all your favorite stuff, or the stuff that would appeal to you, right? And that's kind of the mental model going into this that I really had was, what would that personal assistant need to know about me to be effective? What kind of data should we be collecting? What is going to resonate with the user? What's too much to ask of the user? And all of this, I would stress, kind of from a product philosophy standpoint, is really focused on creating an amazing experience for the user.
Yeah, that's a good segue.
That if you do that, all good things will come.
Yep, and that's a perfect segue. So we've talked a lot about their experiences and what you're trying to give your users and customers. Maybe you could talk just a little bit about those customers. What's the feedback you've gotten to them from the sort of these machine learning, these artificial intelligence tools, this kind of cutting edge technology that you've implemented at Spring, and kind of the experience? What kind of talk about your customers and the feedback you've gotten from them?
Yep, totally. So first, I should be transparent in that this is something relatively new, and we certainly can't pin our growth entirely on this. I mean, we've seen year-over-year growth is 800%, right? So we have tremendous growth just on the catalog itself. So even you take all that stuff away, and we've got a very high growth business, right? When you add in this type of experience, what we see is, that there's different types of shoppers out there, and we want to address the needs of all of them to a large degree. Of course, we index towards the higher value customer, and there's kind of a well-defined set of criteria that constitutes what we consider a high value customer. But we also have a lot of people who are coming in looking for a good deal or are value seekers. And the reality today is that everyone's a value seeker. I mean, what the internet has done to a large degree is, create an audience of people who, by and large, are looking for a deal. Even if they're very well-to-do and are looking for the latest fashion trends, they still want a deal, right? So, the machine learning, the personalization, is a way of refining the user experience. But underneath that all, the fundamentals of price and convenience are still very paramount, right? Because a lot of users that come to us are coming in, with a high intent to get a sweater at a good price, right? And we don't want to discount them because they make up a large percentage of our users, and they always will. But now we have a way to, when they come in, to expose them to something they've never seen before. Like, oh, whoa, like, okay, I just answered these 3 questions, and suddenly I'm seeing everything that I really like. I never heard of this brand. What's this brand? I love their stuff. Oh, it's pretty affordable. I'm going to buy that. Complete my outfit. Wow, that's pretty cool. And that those are the things from a product perspective that we think about that really serve the user, and in return, we get retention.
Yeah, and it's
so when we look at our quote unquote high value users, those users who are in the modality of not just looking for a sale. Within the first couple weeks, we saw up to 10% increase in engagement, right? Just right off the bat. And this is just with the first iteration, which is very simple, of personalization. So just doing a little bit is made a huge difference in the user behavior of the high value user, which is very exciting, of course.
Yeah, I would imagine they would feel, it's more of an interactive shopping experience, so then maybe the customer feels that they're more invested in the company, and
right. Yeah. You've answered some questions about you, and we wanted to do, there's other brands out there that have onboarding experiences that are like a litany of questions, right? And you sit there and answer question after question after question after question after question, and frankly, the payoff,
it's not great. Yeah.
No, and it's like, okay, I just spent 5 minutes answering this question, and I don't like the stuff you have. So that to me is like a fundamental cardinal sin of product, which is you made a promise to the user and you failed to deliver on that promise, which is like the worst thing you can do, So we wanted to really say, all right, what is the minimum ask that we will make of these users? So lightweight that it's trivial. And that's just 3 questions. What's your gender? Pick a couple styles you like, and give us an indication of your price thresholds. And that's really just bootstrapping it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that alone, as I said, for those high value shoppers, 10% increase in engagement.
Yeah, and then, like as you said, it's continuously learning, so you can refine as you learn more about their behavior from some of those inferred, behaviors.
And we've also been, and I learned this early on, is that transparency with personalization. for some users, it's still, this is a privacy thing. And I found that transparency and what we call justifications, which is being really clear with the user why you're asking for this information and what value you're going to deliver in return for that, right? And that's where I think people fall down. Mm-hmm. There's a brand I won't mention that has a really neat. I love the language they use around. Hey, tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we'll give you this great experience. And they don't, right? We really wanted to avoid that, and I think we've managed to.
And then my final question, Gannon, is we've talked about all these different ways that you're trying to meet the needs of your customers and give them the best shopping experience. So what are the business benefits that Spring has realized as a result of using technology such as machine learning to personalize the shopping experience? You mentioned the phenomenal growth that Spring has enjoyed. Anything else that you want to comment on here?
I mean, I think really, to be completely frank, our primary focus, or what we believe, I'm someone who's been building consumer products for way too long. What it all boils down to is loyalty and repeat usage and, to use a marketing term, retention, right? Creating an experience that people is delightful and really delivers on that promise, so that you put it on your home screen, and when you shop, that's what you use. In the way that when you want to figure out how to get from Queens to downtown Manhattan, use Google Maps. When you want to do email, use Gmail or whatever. And the reality of it's a bit of a paradox in that the mobile economy is such that I think we passed the threshold in 2015. You probably know this better than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe in 2015 we passed the threshold where mobile outdid desktop in commerce sales across all categories, right? But when you drill into the data, you realize that, yes, in aggregate that's true, but it's low-cost items like video games and stuff, music, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Higher-priced items were still primarily dominated by desktop for obvious reasons. People aren't comfortable buying a house on their phone or a car on their phone. Apparel and premium apparel, not just luxury, but good quality clothes, is somewhere in the middle, right? And we're now right there where mobile is starting to overtake desktop in terms of overall sales and engagement. Now, that's great, right? But the other fact is that the average American only uses 3 to 5 apps. Full stop, right? So which apps are they using?
And the social sites, yeah.
If they're using Facebook or Instagram or maybe one or the other, or both or something like that. If they're doing commerce, they're using Amazon, right? So the only way to win in the future, right, if we assume that mobile will continue to grow at the same pace or greater than it is today, mobile's the future, right? If you hold that to be true, then the only way to be successful in this market is to be the category leader in your space on the home screen of everyone's mobile phone. So that's what we're trying to do.
So this has been a great conversation. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Gannon Hall of Spring for joining me today. And please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. In partnership with the Shop.org Digital Retail Summit, which is happening next week, September 25th through the 27th in Los Angeles, we've partnered to record live episodes of Total Retail Talks. Make sure you check out our coverage from the show. Lastly, you can still register for the Shop.org conference at shop.org/register. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.